And here it is, guys. Welcome to episode number 21 of the Final Split. I am Golden, and we've got a pretty fun bunch today with an exciting announcement awaiting at the end of the show, so hopefully you guys will all stick around for that. But before we get there, we might as well introduce the crew. Joining us today in the red box, as always, is Spike Vegeta. Spike, how's it going?
It's going great. Happy to be in my red box. Let's do it again.
In the red box. All right, that's good. That's good. We got in the green box this week, returning for his second appearance. We have Ivan.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Good to be here.
Good to have you. And our guest this week in the blue box is Cypher. Hello and welcome.
What's up? Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. It is my birthday today. I don't want to like self promote too much, but if you see me just like suddenly eating cake during the show, I have a full piece here and I don't want it to melt, so going to be enjoying that during the show. But let's go ahead and get things started with our first topic. And it's kind of a 2-for-1 because it is the big record of the week, but it's also our first topic. So that being said, it is Zost's 28 in-game time, 4408. That would be for real time and actually hidden behind the screen here. Let me pull it up in front. I had it in the right order before, but not
just
anymore.
Replace all our faces.
That's right. That's the screen. That's the screen right there. That's the important screen. So the 28 clear time, a first for the game. Yeah, what do you guys think about this?
It's a big milestone for our community. It's something we have been. I mean, as Behemoth's first 29 came out a little over a year ago, and I mean, it's funny. The run actually kind of reminds me of Behemoth's run because the early game is kind of sketchy, I would say. As far as, I don't want to belittle Zost's run, it was a fantastic speed run, but as far as like his standards go, a 1602 powerbomb split is kind of average for him.
Sure.
I mean, he's been putting up 1550 and sub 1550 pretty frequently. So, but that it was the same with Behemoth's run, where his early game was kind of, you're watching it and you're like, man, I don't know how this is going to be like a 45-17 or whatever it was that he first got, and then in the later parts of the run, he pours it on, and it really comes together. But it was kind of the same thing with this run. But yeah, it's easily the best run of Super Metroid in any category that we've had yet.
And safe to say that, if he wants to at this point, this is a good spot to kind of kick back and say, I've done enough with this game, I've accomplished it. Knowing Zost, that's probably not going to be the case, but certainly deserved at this point if he wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
It's really... Remember when a 32 was like legendary? I don't know. Ivan's only been around for a couple of years now, but I know I remember back 2006, I want to say, when Hotarubi's original 32 came out, and everyone thought this was the greatest speedrun in the world, and everyone was going nuts over it. And now we're sitting here again, kind of like Ivan. I don't want to take anything away from Zost, but I think this is such a great tribute to the Super Metroid community and how much further this game has been pushed. It's such a different game. Like, I know there's different strategies that have been developed over the years, but it's not like Ocarina of Time where all of a sudden just bam, something busts open and the game's cut in half and the category completely changes. So much of this is just the crispness of movement, optimization of every single room in that game. And it really has turned it into what some people will say is the most, just minute for minute, every room is just so exciting, like the best speed game in the world. And watching how, again, it was 2 years ago, I was looking on a friend's computer and I saw Gary's 49 real time and how insane that was. It's it's nuts. And yeah, big shout outs to Zost, but big shout outs to the whole SM community for achieving this. I look forward to 43.
Say my piece on this. I remember, I think the first theory task I heard of for this game was a 28, and I cannot believe that we are at the point where it was achieved in real time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember when Hotarubi's 31 was like on his YouTube channel was seen as like this it's kind of vaunted run in the community, and then Speedruns Live happens, and a racing community formed around the game, and then after all these years, it's led to like this crazy super optimized run. It's really, really cool to see the evolution of the game over the 3 years or so that it's been really active.
Yeah, it's almost like the in-house community of Super Metroid just kind of motivated each other to reach for this goal eventually. You know, I mean, obviously, not the same people necessarily involved at the finale as, you know, when people were starting out racing on SRL, but it's been a community that's been there. They've been persistent. You know, Friday night races have been around forever. And it's just a community that loves to see other players inside of the community improve. And yeah, this is kind of the final testament to that, I guess, if you want to say. I'm sure there's obviously potential for it to be improved beyond this, but this is definitely a very high point for Super Metroid, to say the least.
Definitely.
All right. Well, you know, I thought this was going to be the you know, moment we congratulated Forensics for his accomplishment, but apparently the man himself unable to fulfill his prophecy. But
he's always been Forensics, man.
Yeah,
it's just Zost.
All right, I guess it was Zost all along.
All along.
Now we know. All right, guys. Yeah, if you get a chance to check out the replay, by the way, head on over to twitch.tv/Zosty. Check that out. Get the watch. All right, let's move on, guys, and interview our friend Cypher here, who is our guest this week. And I guess the first question, I'll start it off, and then we can kind of pass it around. But your current project that you're working on, Gimmick, you're doing have you finished the task now? Are you working on the task still? What's going on?
I'm still working on it. I'm not close to finishing it. I've done stages 1 through 3.
Okay.
And I'm making a theory task, which is actually kind of surprising because in the past I've been against making theory tasks, just like on my own part, because I don't like seeing the final ideal laid out there. I kind of just like pushing a new frontier and like seeing times get lower and lower without having like an actual boundary there. But with Gimmick, the star shots in that game have a lot of complexity, and I wanted to have a video that showcases all the possible strategies that you can go for in a speed run, because I feel like there is not that knowledge really isn't there in the community right now. And of course I'll be interested in what the final time is, but I am making it through frame advance, which some other people in the Gimmick community have been arguing about, because they think that making it in real time would lead to like a more true final time.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm pretty motivated about this right now, and I think when I'm done with that, I'm gonna just finish up some practice and start grinding attempts again.
And can you explain just briefly the situation in that game right now? Like, what is the goal time? Who are you competing against? That kind of thing.
So current record for the best ending, which is the category that people generally care more about, is 1020 by Grass. If you want to check out his run, it's on his Twitch page, Doughy Guy 92. And 1020 is a decent run, but it can definitely go below 10 minutes. And I think that a really good run by a human would be around like 940. And I don't know, that record stood since 2013. I want to say like around mid 2013. Just no one's really stepped up to grind it below that point. But after I got the Rockman 2 record about a month ago, I was like, I haven't played Gimmick in a while, and I actually have console save state support for it now, so why not?
You know, Gimmick was that game that I know whenever we do our games topic shows, we always reference that as, hey, maybe this is the game that nobody else has heard of that will all of a sudden get into a GDQ and everyone's going to be a fan of it. Everyone's going to love the run. What made Cypher find it? Did you know the game as a child at all? Did you find it through speedrunning? What brought you upon this great speed game?
I found the game before the speedrunning community. I had a friend named Terrell that I'm still kind of in contact with, but we were talking a lot about older games and playing a lot of NES games, like, I want to say in the 6 months or so before I got into speedrunning. And Gimmick, he showed me Gimmick, and I was like, wow, this game's really cool. Then when I got into the speedrunning community, I watched the TASes of the game. Actually, I think I was like actively checking TAS videos when Hadarubi and Aguilar released their 2 TASes for best ending in any percent. I think that was in 2012 or 11. But yeah, I watched those and I was blown away. Like, the best ending TAS is one of my favorite TASes ever. I recommend everyone go watch it. But, you know, I kind of put the game on my mental list of games I'd like to speedrun in the future. And I don't remember what actually like compelled me to start playing it at whatever moment that I did. But I think I decided to I saw there was a run on YouTube by, I think it's Hoshikuzu, and I was like, this run's cool, but it can be improved a lot. So I just started testing around the levels, finding new strats, like the Treasure Room 4 strat, and then I just started running it, and I was like, you know what, I had participated in an HDQ previously, and I was like, I think I can get this game into HDQ, even though it's totally unknown. And I did a pretty good run, and the rest is history.
And go ahead. Or sorry, I thought I was interrupting.
No, I said the rest is history.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then in that case, there we go. I knew it.
Yeah, we knew you did.
Spike, then me.
No, sure. You know, it's hard. Like, it's going to make it sound like I'm just moving on from Gimmick. I think the thing that a lot of people know about you whenever they come into your streams is that you always speedrun a wide variety of games, and you've also speedrun, it feels like, maybe more challenging games, games that present a lot of obstacles, Rockman 2, Gimmick, SMRPG. Can you say just kind of what speed games, like, is it the difficulty that draws you? Is there some other element to it? Like, how do you choose your speed games?
I like games that are difficult. I also like games that I think are good video games. I think that Mega Man 2, Gimmick, and Mario RPG are all really great video games in their own right, and they're exciting to watch played quickly. And I mean, I also speedrun like other games that people don't care about as much that aren't as difficult, like Joe and Mac 2. And I generally don't put as much time into those. But yeah, I like speedrunning a variety of games that are all pretty difficult, but I would also say are not like quite at the very top echelon of difficulty. Like, you know, I'm not speedrunning like Mario 64 120 star and Super Metroid any percent and, you know, yada yada. So I like to have my hands in a few speed games that are challenging and have depth, but wouldn't require like dedication to just one single speed game. I like having that variety.
I was going to say, like going along with that, one thing that I think of when I think of you as just a speedrunner in general is that no matter what game it is, you just have a strong grasp of it, and you're always able to compete at kind of like a really high level in those games. Is there something about the way that you practice that you think other people could benefit from knowing? Or, you know, like when you approach a game, like what's the way that you approach speedrunning a game to get to that level?
Whenever I decide to pick up a game with the intention of getting a good run of it, I always like I'm one of those people who when they start playing a game, I just immediately start practicing it and refining strategies rather than like, doing some kind of sloppy runs for at the start and just like easing into it. I start looking at it with a razor eye like right away.
Okay.
And I just start looking for very clear visual cues in every single section that has any kind of non-trivial input. In terms of practice, I mean, I don't think I do anything particularly special for practice. I identify spots that I know I will need to just drill over and over to kind of raise my consistency, and I create a save state so that it's as close to the spot I want to practice as possible while still giving me the chance to like see the situation, respond to it once I load the state. So I try to practice as efficiently as possible in that way. And I use Game Saver and Power Pack a lot to practice on console. So that has definitely helped since those devices have been introduced into the community. Like, I definitely don't think I would have the time in Rockman 2 that I do now if I didn't have the Power Pack. That helped immensely.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that those are an immense help, because obviously, like, switching between emulator and playing on console, there's quite a bit of a difference.
Yeah, and I mean, my practice habits are generally just like, once I get into a mode where I'm like, all right, I want to focus on X game for the next however weeks, months, whatever. And once I get into that mentality, I'll kind of just like, during my free time, I'll load up a stream in the background and I'll just drill save states. And it's just enjoyable for me, honestly. Like, practicing and having that feeling that I am getting better at the game palpably is an enjoyable feeling for me.
I've got a chat comment here from Zosty. I like that side goes for the craziest star with no fear or compromise.
I like that you pronounce it Psych.
I was like, I don't know. See? That always. Anyways, yeah, going on from that. There are probably a lot of people here in chat and a lot of people who are just saying like, oh, maybe I've got a marathon run coming up or something. And one thing I've always admired about you, I feel like you don't have that fear even when it comes to marathon runs. Like, it's one thing on your stream in front of a couple hundred people. It's another thing in front of tens of thousands. What's the number one piece of advice you would give to people who might have a marathon run coming up?
Oh, piece of advice?
Maybe just like your mentality or just anything you can say to them.
Yeah. Well, that's hard for me to give a piece of advice because I feel like people just naturally have different emotional and physical reactions to that kind of pressure. Like, the way I like what I'm feeling when I am about to do a marathon run at a GDQ is I'm actually incredibly nervous, like in the 10 minutes or so or half hour or so leading up to my run starting. And then I start playing, and usually like once I make my first like significant mistake, I'll kind of just ease into it, and I'll be like, well, this is no longer going to be like potential world record run in a marathon. I can relax now. But sure. I mean, my mentality about going for difficult things in marathons is, as long as it's not something that would completely ruin your run, just go for it if you feel like you are good enough at the trick, and people will understand if you fail it. But if you do get it, that hype will be there. People will be really excited. It'll be a lot of clapping, whatever. And hype is what, I mean, it's an integral part of the marathons. People live for the hype and the GDQs, so.
Yeah, and I think it's safe to say that nobody has the full expectation that you're going to pop out, a world record run on one given run. So the incentive to go for it, I guess, is there at least.
Yeah, right. And I mean, my previous HDQ 2014, I don't think I really had the best performance at my games in that. but you know, that happens. And the previous GDQs I played in, I played better, and you know, you get what you get. Like I kind of, after all this time speedrunning, I have conceptualized execution as more or less another form of RNG, where like after a certain amount of practice, you have a certain rough percentage of getting a given trick, and if you get bad execution RNG in a marathon, then oh well, you tried your best. Sometimes it's one person's day, and sometimes it's not.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I want to talk about another game here, just for a little bit. Mario RPG, obviously, big developments in this game recently. Checkers having a really solid run in that game.
Yes.
I remember you doing your week-long Mario RPG marathon way back when, and obviously you're still attached to the game. Do we have any plans in the future to see some sort of Mario RPG marathon too, or what are your plans for that game, I guess?
I would like to do another Mario RPG marathon, but now that I have like a 9-to-5 job, it's a little difficult.
Sure.
Funny thing is, I did that marathon. I was planning that marathon before I found out that I got the job I currently have, and you know, that marathon, I was raising money for me to go to HDQ because I didn't have a job at the time. And then I actually, you know, found out I got the job right before the marathon started, and I was like, oh wow, I have a job now, and I'm raising funds to get money to HDQ, but I didn't want to just like go back on it.
Yeah.
Sorry to anyone who donated, thinking that I really needed money to go to HDQ back 2 years ago.
Here comes
donate back to everyone.
Here comes the internet hate right now. I can see it, the threads on our speedrun.
Yeah. But yeah, so Mario RPG is one of the games that's closest to my heart, and I was actually doing runs while Checkers was doing his runs like about a month ago. And I'll admit that him getting his 253 kind of dampened my interest in the short term, especially since I went on some trips earlier this month, and I wasn't really speed gaming after the Rockman 2 record. But you know what? I had spent the first half of this year or so kind of refining the current route, and I poured a lot of just brain power, paperwork hours into improving the game's route and strategies. And I'm honestly really, really glad that it ended up in the current final product of Checkers' 253. It's really cool to see someone else step up and get a really good time for that game and rep it well, when I felt like I was the only one really running the game for 3 years or so. But right now, I mean, I'm more interested in playing Gimmick, and I do want to move out to my own place sometime soon, within the next few months, and it would be better if I started like a Mario RPG grind session after I'd moved out. So I do want to lower the time to like 252 or 251, but it's definitely going to take more effort now.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Can you guys think of any other questions at the moment? Or are we gonna?
Oh, there are plenty.
There are plenty. Yeah. The thing I want to point out too is we got the Q&A with the chat. I'm sure they've got a bunch of questions too. So I'm trying to balance it out here and not take all of them away before the end. But all right. So how about on that note, we'll say that that's the end of the standard interview here, and then if you guys have questions in the chat at the end, I'm sure you'll remember something that we didn't. But for now, we've got actually a little bit of a grind session here in the Real Talk segment. Quite a few things to talk about.
It's an RPG.
Oh my god, I didn't even mean to make that joke, and I did. I'm on fire today. This is
nice.
Oh man. All right, I'm gonna hit you hard with the first question here. Here we go. What are your thoughts on Final Fantasy Tactics being rejected? Who wants to be that guy? Step up and answer the question.
And everybody at once was like, why did they go here?
Yeah.
Why are they talking
We're
about
going there. That's the question.
Honestly, I've never been a big fan of RPG speedruns, but I have found myself more and more watching the Claude play FFT, and I'm really sad that it didn't actually make it in, and hopefully it'll get an appeal or something. But yeah, I don't know. With the sheer amount of the time and effort he has poured into that game, I really wish he could have a chance to run it, but I don't know.
It's really hard. You've got, they're having to balance at this point something like probably close to 1,000 hours of games, probably more. Only about 150 hours are getting in. The number one thing I'll say is, like, a lot of people have put a lot of hours into their games that will never get into GDQs. Sure. The biggest thing I try to go off of is just, okay, is this an entertaining watch? Is this something that is going to raise donation dollars? And as someone who never watched a Final Fantasy Tactics run before this week, I didn't know myself. After watching probably a solid 30, 40 minutes of it, I know the Claude would put on a good show. I think the game definitely has donation incentive merits. I don't think 5 hours is too long. I don't think it's exactly an obscure game. There's a huge audience out there who thinks Final Fantasy Tactics is the best Final Fantasy game, not FF6 or 7 or any of this. I start to just compare these things. All right, let's compare it to, say, Final Fantasy VI, which has made 3 appearances in marathons. All right, Final Fantasy Tactics is about the same length of the category, so it's even there. From a donation incentive potential, I guess you're saying that people are more invested in the FF6 characters than they are in the FF Tactics characters. Okay, but at the end of the day, what are we trying to do? We're trying to raise money, and you can do that with more ways than just character incentives. Why not? When I was, I'm a big fan of the Chrono Trigger cast. I didn't donate for Chrono Trigger characters. You know what had me reaching for my wallet during AGDQ 2014? When people were showing these sick posters that they were throwing out, these prizes that absolutely could be put in during Tactics. Another thing that people always talk about, Puexel always stresses, marathon RPGs live and die by the commentary. You can't take that away from this game. The Claude is going to do an excellent job. Hella entertaining guy and knows his stuff. The run has varied battle strategies throughout the entire game. It has less cutscenes than most Final Fantasies. It just seems odd to say we're not going to give this game a second look. And there's a lot more I can say on this. But
I was going to say, you need to take a break there. You need some air in the lungs. But
sure.
some good points nonetheless.
We'll jump back in.
Yeah. We'll let you guys get a second round here. Cypher, go ahead.
Yeah, I did make an initial post supporting FFT when it was rejected. And I want to reiterate, I want to second pretty much everything Ivan and Spike Vegeta said. I understand why Mike and the rest of the committee is very hesitant about it, because the gameplay is not something easily understood on its own by a casual watcher who doesn't have an in-depth understanding of the game. Heck, I don't even know the game that well, and it's hard for me to follow sometimes. But the Claude is really just an excellent commentator, and he has a personality that it's very charismatic. I'm just going to say it. He's very charismatic. And sure. I think that it would be a worthy addition to AGDQ. Now, I understand that there are tons of other games that are worthy additions to AGDQ that would get cut out if FFT was put in. And I hope there's a way to accommodate the Claude being able to showcase the game to the world that he loves so much. But I'll also understand if, it's just not enough upside for 5 hours when HDQ is, there's so much competition to get in now,
Yeah, I think, worthy of noting here, too, is just... kind of a point that Spike brought up a little bit ago, Puexel's point about having good commentary kind of driving an RPG. At least from my own experience, something that I can relate to is that I don't typically watch RPG speedruns. I just, like, I'll put that out there. I just, generally speaking, I don't. But when they're in GDQs, in the past, I've taken time to watch them because every time that I watch one, I can expect commentary from Puexel about the game, telling me something I didn't understand or know, or, you know, explaining hidden secrets that I wouldn't have found when I played it. It's just this, you're kind of this knowledge base of the game, more so than, you know, platforming speedruns is very visually obvious to me. As a viewer, okay, this guy's really good at the game. Why? Because the platforming kind of can relay that. You can't get that as obviously with an RPG, at least in my opinion. It comes more from just kind of showcasing the amount of intelligence you have related to the game. That's where it's kind of awe-inspiring. So to me, the thing about it for me is that I feel like Claude can relay that to people through this game. I also feel like if you compare it to other popular games at the moment, like let's take like League of Legends for instance, right? At the base level of League of Legends, let's say I don't know anything about any of the characters, I don't know anything about any of the spells, any of that. At the very basic level of that game, it's two teams trying to knock down towers. I can understand that. I have that concept. So therefore, it's easy for me to watch and say, okay, I understand they knocked down a tower. That's good. At Tactics basic level, I feel like it's chess, right? It's my pieces versus their pieces. And if I have more knowledge of it, good for me. If I don't, I feel like the commentary could potentially drive that. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like, obviously, that the big X factor here with this run is the length. You know, 5 hours is a lot of time to commit to any game, not just Tactics in particular. You know, there's been instances of this before where long games have kind of had to really make a push to be reconsidered. I guess the part that maybe bugs me a little bit more than anything is that it got rejected in the first round. And when I feel like you reject something in the first round, it's almost like saying there's no chance that we want this. You know, at the very least, I'm not saying, you know, the situation changes if you pass it into second round and then reject it. I mean, it's essentially the same situation. But at least then I feel like you acknowledge the fact that, you know, the runners put in a lot of effort, the game has a fan base or potential, or you're at least giving a nod to the community that games that they feel deserve to be in and runners that they feel have put a lot of effort in, that's getting rewarded. I think I'm a little bit more hung up on that than the state of, you know, accept or reject.
Yeah, I also think that it should have made the first round of cuts. Seeing like FF4 and actually a lot of other RPGs make the first cut, and not FFT. Like FFT was actually rejected, I think, on the second day that they were putting out decisions, and I feel like it should have been included in that pool of games that they actually like craft a good schedule from like the second round pool of games.
For sure.
So yeah, I felt like it was pretty surprising to see it rejected so quickly in the first round, and I wonder what was, you know, going through Yama's head.
And you know, the one thing I will say, I guess, sort of in defense of it, is that from their standpoint, they know the entire game list. They know everything that's been submitted. We only know what has been accepted and what's been rejected. And the problem I feel there is what probably they're looking at is they say, okay, here's all the Mega Man games. Here's all the ones we're probably going to end up accepting down the line. Here's all the ones we're going to reject down the line. And I feel like they've maybe already looked at it and said, here's all our 5-hour RPGs. Here are the ones we're going to go with. Here's the ones we're not going to go with. And the problem I guess I take from that is it feels like Final Fantasy Tactics can't just be based on its own merit within the 150, 160-hour marathon. It's, do we want this to be our sole Final Fantasy game that gets into the marathon? That it's not compared to everything else. It's just compared to, do we want this instead of Final Fantasy IV or whatever other Final Fantasy might get in? And it just makes it feel like they're sending out the decision that this is not as nostalgic a game for a lot of people, when, again, I feel like a lot of people will tell you Final Fantasy Tactics is their favorite Final Fantasy. And I feel like a lot of this is just making too much of a big deal out of naming incentives. I do think naming incentives are a good thing, but I feel like that's more tradition speaking than anything else. That, you know what, once again, if I can put out a great prize, if we can freaking sing Disney songs, whatever it is you want to throw in there, you can make incentives. I don't think that alone should, and I'm not saying that is alone what it is, but I feel like that is a big factor for them that they've always said about why do smaller RPGs not get in? Because no one cares about the characters. I don't know. That feels like that's playing a bigger factor than we're giving it credit for.
Yeah, and I think something that we can all agree on and understand is that at the end of the day, the goal for the marathon is to raise money for charity. And, you know, if that is the concern, if that is the primary concern, then I think one way to go about potentially pushing the game or you know, into reconsideration is to show that it has potential to raise money and there are ways that it can be done. And I also think that a lot of times people look inside the box when they're looking for donation incentives. They're like, what does the game offer me as a donation incentive? Does it have names? Does it have, you know, a fork in the road where I can choose X or Y? And I feel like you don't always have to look inside that box for those incentives. You know, like you had mentioned, prizes, that kind of thing. External things can also bring in a lot of money. I know, like a good example from SGDQ was Oracle of Seasons. There was a prize package for Seasons and Ages. They could win like copies of both games. And there were so many donations when I was on the stand that were just like the minimum amount to be entered to win that prize. So like prizes motivate people. I think there's stuff to be searched there. But yeah, any other final thoughts on this here? I don't want to turn this into the whole hour episode. I know
Sure.
it's very easy to, you know, to talk about this one, but
Stand with Ramza.
Stand with Ramza. There you go. I think that's a good way to end. All right, we'll see what happens. But speaking of the submission process, guys, our next topic is the submission process. So it's changed for HDQ. We're now submitting our games through the website, and you're kind of seeing games get accepted and rejected in real time. What do you think of the new submission process overall? Are you a fan of it? What do you like? What don't you like?
I think we all probably miss seeing reasons for why things were rejected, but we can also, or accepted or rejected. But we can understand that there is a ton of work going into these marathons at this point, and it's understandable. Other than that, I mean, I am often like surprised at the order in which things are, the accepts or rejects are published, because like, you know, I've seen people say that they submitted on like the first or second day and their game still hasn't been decided upon, when like other things got submitted and then they were like there was a decision about them that same day or the next day. But I mean, like, I understand that there's a ton of work to be done in these marathons now, and as long as there isn't like huge delay or huge logistical problems, any way that they want to do the submission process is pretty okay with me.
Yeah, it definitely does seem like they might be holding some games. I don't know what's it like, holding them hostage, but like just putting them off to the side for now.
Yeah,
because I know multiple people that have submitted like say 3 or 4 games and seen one either go through or get rejected, and then a couple days later the others show up.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've seen Sweetie T a couple times tweeting like, Luigi U, what's happening? It's like hanging in the balance. Like, I don't know what's happening. Mm-hmm. I think layout-wise, the site looks really cool. I think like it's organized well. I'm glad that they responded very quickly to the complaints about alphabetizing the list, and now it's chronological, so it's a little bit easier to keep in touch with. All right, this game just got a decision, and I think overall, like the submission process itself was pretty clear, pretty easy to follow along with. Did you guys run into any problems when you were submitting?
Nope.
No, it's amazing still how little you can do in 400 characters.
Just trying to find the words.
I would say 400 characters is a good amount. Now that I've completed it, I didn't feel like I needed more. I felt like probably after that, you're rambling and your game doesn't speak enough for itself. I love how it's set up to where like everyone seems encouraged to have their videos. I like that all of a sudden I've got my own marathon library right there when I go to the Games Done Quick submission page that I can go and watch videos videos of any of these, see what my opinions and thoughts are on the whole situation. Like, oh, well, that looked like a great speed game. How is that not in? Going back to what Cypher said about the transparency of it, not being able to see why you got accepted or rejected. I really liked when we got to see it, but I also understand with how big the GDQs have become, that had essentially become impossible. I mean, how much would we rather we see a games list faster, or that every single game across the map, when we really only care about our own, is going to have, this is why, this and that. As a professional actor, I go to auditions every single week, and I don't see what anybody else does, and then I get told, don't come back, and I'm not told why. They're not going to tell me, well, you're fat, or, or you didn't kiss up enough, or you were just bad, like whatever it was. Like, they're not going to give you those reasons. So big shout outs to Mike and the crew for, no matter what, whether you agree or disagree with them, they've really been transparent in past years. They've given you reasons why, whether you think the reasons are good or not, they've told you. And hopefully we see more of this in the future. They've furiously been trying to crank out a games list of first cuts, and trying to respond to people as they can on the forums, but it's a direction they probably had to go in no matter what.
I'm just curious how the games thread got into the state it got in. Yeah. That it was in yesterday or so. That was like, what was going on there?
That was the place to be.
Clearly, like, the take-home message for next year is that you need a minimum number of characters in addition to a maximum. Like, the maximum, we thought that was all you needed, but maybe it's going to have to be like 100 to 400 characters instead of like 0 to 400. I don't know. Well,
that's a whole nother topic.
That's all right. Let's not go there. Let's get out of there before we get.
Yeah.
All right. Moving along, guys. Gimmick, but not for the reason you think. The category here is, what do you think of runs being submitted with blindfolded requirements or other gimmicks? It seems like a lot of people are submitting some pretty interesting ones, actually. I've seen blindfolded, I've seen X players, Y controllers, and we've even seen one brave soul willing to dip his controller in honey, which sounds absolutely disgusting. What do you guys think about these runs? Do you think that the more the merrier, or is it just another way to try and sneak a game in? What do you think?
I think stuff like...
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I think if a game has a easy to see affinity for one of these gimmicks, then it's a good idea to submit it. But if you're just like sticking 2-player 1 controller with any random game, then I don't know. I feel like it shouldn't be in there, and people are not really going to care, and it's just going to add to that oversaturation of something that, if it's done in moderation, can be really, really cool. That's my basic thought on the whole thing.
Yeah, I think there's certain games that definitely lend themselves well to these kind of things, and I think they work well as bonus runs or just donation incentives. But just having like, why dip your controller in honey? What's the point? I don't understand.
It's a perfectly good controller. I could have used that controller.
Yeah,
with that kind of thing.
Go ahead.
All right, with that kind of thing, I feel like it's this the person trying to inject their own like personality or gimmick that they have on their stream into a setting where it doesn't really fit. And again, if it doesn't really go along with the game, or it doesn't go along with some kind of elements in the marathon where it suits it, or if it's like not something that we know a lot of people would really, really love to see, like we just know that, then I don't know, keep it out.
We've only been doing this for a few years, and all of a sudden it's like, to the general audience, we have this fear that we can't just speedrun anymore. I've got to do it blindfolded. I've got to have 1P, 2C, 2P, 1C. I've got to, be thrown in a fish tank with sharks coming after me, hands tied behind my back, handcuffed. You have to do all these extra things when we're getting away from just what is pure speedrunning. All of a sudden, we feel like that's not enough for the general audience. And like Cypher said, you fear that we're going to reach an oversaturation point where it's not a speedrunning event anymore. It's a gimmick event. It's about like what weird skill can I bring to the marathon of how I can dip my controller in honey and still get through this video game, as opposed to I'm just going to show you, I'm going to destroy a game of your childhood, and it feels like we're getting away from that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I kind of agree just generally with what you guys are saying, but I feel like certain games convey some of these gimmicks better than others too. Like Punch-Out Blindfolded, I think, is just kind of the obvious one where it becomes immediately more impressive to the viewer that you're capable of doing it, and it almost doesn't matter so much what your final time is. You know, like the speedrunning element almost becomes secondary to the impressive factor
You did it.
that's added in. Whereas I feel like a lot of times if you just add in blindfolded, what you're really doing is slowing yourself down unintentionally. You know, like it doesn't add anything really per se. It still might be impressive, but it's no better than if you had just done it with your eyes open, and then it still would be visually impressive. I don't know. I think it's a very case-by-case basis for some of these, but I don't think anybody would be complaining if they get like blindfolded 16 star or something, but you know, it really depends on the game. All right, so that's a pretty simple one. Next one up here, guys, we have ongoing right now this weekend. It is actually presently live. The Donkey Kong Country Festival, yearly event, first year in existence.
The yearly.
I'm going to say yearly because I hope there better be a 2015. There better be a 2015. So Donkey Kong Country Festival, celebration of DKC 1, 2, and 3, open to players of all skill levels. And today we saw, earlier today we saw Donkey Kong Country 3 action. Going on right now, we've got Donkey Kong Country 1, and then tomorrow is 2. Did any of you guys get a chance to watch any of this? And what are your thoughts on the DKC Festival?
I'm not like a gigantic DKC fan, but I really appreciate that they're throwing on like, you know, an actual event festival. It's really funny to call it a festival.
I like that word, yeah.
Yeah. But you know, it's cool that, you know, they're taking time away to do something fun, community involving that's, you know, not the usual grinding for a better world record or whatever. And it's really an affirmation that, you know, the Donkey Kong Country community has, you know, likes to have fun playing the games they like so much together. And, you know, they have these weird side events where they like race these silly goals. And it's just like fun to see those in this kind of setting.
Yeah.
Where, you know, people aren't taking things too seriously, but, you know, there are points that they're keeping track of, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's very whose line is it anyway? Like the points don't matter, but they're there anyway. Like they're, you know, like, oh, I got, you know, how many points from this game, you know, take that. But at the end of the day,
Claude's busy trash talking the whole time.
Right. I love that like half the people who were trash talking about how many points they were going to get aren't even playing in like 2 or 3 of the games, right? Like just gonna completely sit out. But no, I love it. It's this idea that you can play games in other ways and you know, have a good time. That's kind of the big thing for me. I think is just like it doesn't have to be necessarily in a marathon itself for you to be able to play it or find ways to bring people in and play it. So I see a cat sneaking on Ivan's camera there.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, what's the cat's name?
Rupee.
Rupee. All right.
Oh, Rupee.
There we go. That's a good name. Yeah, I don't know. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a lot of fun watching, and I'm totally not trying to watch it while I'm hosting the show.
Yeah, I know. I don't care what this person's opinion
But if my eyes go this way, yeah, then you know what I'm looking at.
It's just such a great celebration, I think, of not just the DKC series, because it is that, but also just the community that goes along with it, and just speedrunning in general, that we can all come together, like Cypher said, and just not stress about it. We're not raising money. We're not trying to put on our little own mini online GDQ or anything. We're just doing a bunch of silly races, because that's what it boils down to.
We're right.
Just doing a bunch of
they were doing the collect the stars bonus game.
Yeah.
I watched that. That was really funny.
That was really good. Yeah.
They did some BS level only as Kiddy Kong. It's like, you know, they were digging, and they had just as much fun digging as they are racing.
Right. Just coming up with the categories, you know, like that was a fun night. Like, hey, what's the weirdest thing we can do in this game?
DKC 374 kitty only. All right.
Right.
This sounds like a game of Mad Libs that you just threw out with DKC.
Right, you just like threw a stage name out there and a character, and it's
Sure, we'll do that.
it's wonderful. Yeah, so that's been a lot of fun to watch, and the link there, by the way, Reflected is hosting the whole event on his Twitch page, kind of doing commentary. Has other members of the DKC community doing commentary as well. I know DBJ was in there earlier doing some commentary, so that's going on still the rest of tonight, and then tomorrow, I believe, is the final day.
Yeah, I'm also impressed with the, I guess you'd say, production level of the whole thing. Like, Reflected's got, like, scenes, and he's, like, constantly toggling between different streamers that are doing these races, and it's all pretty well done. And they've got, like, commentary going the whole time. They're talking about, like, various tricks that appear in the various categories they're doing.
Mhm.
And it's a cool thing. If you have, like, any interest in DKC at all, definitely check it out for a little bit.
Yeah, and if you have any interest in just having some fun, because I mean, you don't really need to know a lot about the DKC games to watch them and be impressed. So
Hey, join in on the races. There were some people with not great times earlier.
I am actually like going out there and saying I'm playing 2 tomorrow, and I just hope I finish. Like, I don't care what my final time is. If I get to see the credits, I'm happy. So check that out, guys. It should be a lot of fun. Let's go ahead and go out of bounds here with our next topic. This one was actually submitted to us via our email, so it just goes to show that if you give us something to talk about, we might talk about it. So Joka gave us this really interesting poll, and before I show the results, I'll just show the question, and maybe you guys in the chat can play along too. What do you think about controller converters being allowed on console runs? Meaning, for instance, Checkers uses a Super Nintendo controller to play Mega Man 3. I don't know if you guys knew that. Now you know. And so what is your thought on controller converters? This is such a weird topic. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't bring up the keyboard converter.
Keyboard, obviously,
that
yeah.
Tom Alex made for Hetfields.
yeah, that's keyboard, obviously another big
Because
one
that
people have to talk
I
about.
think would be an actual source of controversy if like a legitimate new console record for, you know, a Mega Man X game or another popular game was performed on a keyboard adapter, but you're still playing on console. I feel like that would, people would get a little, there'd be a bit of drama over that.
Yeah, it does seem kind of like a point of contention. I see some people in chat saying that they don't really have a problem with it. Other people saying that's not the way I do it. So, you guys, any of the, Ivan, Spike, you guys got any thoughts on this one?
I don't. I think as long as it doesn't affect the gameplay, then I'd be completely fine with it. I want to think of it like if I'm playing an emulator, there's a number amount of controllers that I could use, you know, but there's not just one set thing that I'm required to use for an emulator. So I mean, I don't know why you would restrict yourself to that with console too. If it's not like changing the actual gameplay, I don't think I would mind.
Yeah, I know we got Cypher in the call. I know probably some people have, you know, I don't want to delve too far into it, but people have talked about, you know, Crystal obviously uses keyboard for Link to the Past, you know, and people can come up with different reasons for this. I guess I don't have a problem with it, kind of like Ivan, until you can prove to me there is an advantage by having your controller look like this and be positioned like this with the keys like this, as opposed to another way. Otherwise, as far as I'm concerned, it's free game. If we're going to allow, you know, different console versions of the game, why is the controller necessarily the biggest issue? If IQ is cool, I don't see why SNES to NES adapter or keyboard adapter is going to be the biggest issue.
I feel like this is kind of one of those things where you develop your own opinion of it, and then that kind of determines like whose run you consider like the legitimate one. You know, like if you don't care, if you're like whatever, keyboard is fine, this is fine, that's fine, then you know whatever the fastest time is, that's what you're concerned about. I also know that there's like this kind of traditionalist view where like at least like in my own experience, I'll say that whenever I have the opportunity, I like to play on the console with the, you know, original controller, but that's just kind of like a personal enjoyment factor for me. It's kind of like extra nostalgia that I'm kind of forcing myself to play with this controller on this console. But at the same time, I'm not one to say if, you know, at the end of the day, it's you still executing the game. And I think that's kind of the bigger point there. But let me just show you the results of the poll, by the way. So Joka actually sent this to us. It looks like 65% had said yes, it is okay to use a controller converter, and 20% said no, and a few people didn't know what a speedrun is. So, and one very opinionated person said depends on the game. Depends on the game. I want examples. Whoever that was, if that was you, send us an email. Let us know which game.
We want you on the finals.
That's right. You're next. You're the next final split contestant. There we go.
When I think about this, I want to have a last word on this.
Sure.
When I think about this subject, Link to the Past, any % comes to mind, like, you know, the 1 minute category. Actually, I don't know what goes on in the new route that Tasser Yuzuhara found recently, but in the route that was present in that run for a while, you have to do 1 frame duration inputs of you know, up and right or up and left, and it's like extremely difficult on D-pad to do, you know, like a dozen of those inputs all in a row, and keyboard makes that much easier. So I can understand people having a kind of immediate emotional reaction, where suddenly being able to use a keyboard on console for this category, where keyboard provides a clearly you know, a very clear advantage.
Sure.
You know, they might not be okay with that, but eventually it just comes back to the thing where, like, we allow things like IQ for Zelda, and it's basically the same idea where, you know, this one person shell out some money to get a slight advantage in the game they're running, and like there's like a bit of an outcry, but people have generally been okay with it in the past, and I feel like it's the same kind of thing. It
all goes back to this idea of like speedrunning utopia. Everybody plays on the same controller. Everybody plays on the, you know, in a perfect world, we all can afford the console we want and the game we want, and everybody plays on the. But you know, it's part of the nature of the beast, as I tend to say. All right. Well, on that note, let's go ahead and look at this week's glitch, please, because we made it through that was a pretty serious discussion there, and I see a lot of mad nerds in the chat.
I'm stressed.
now we got to make you laugh and feel better because we upset you all. So let's make fun of somebody, shall we? Here we go.
Woo!
This one was submitted to us by Wally Aldo, playing Mega Man 3, and well, I don't even know. Words can't describe. If he was a basketball player, this is an airball, that's for sure. Let's take a look. So he's gonna switch to the snakes here. Notice he's on very low health.
Also take note of how big this hitbox is.
All right, here it is. Up and over.
No, it was so close. Are you? Oh my
that rainbow.
God.
Take a look again. You gotta watch again.
Oh,
just barely misses. Just goes right up and over. Oh man!
No, it was so close.
Yeah, that's pretty hard to miss in snake at some point.
That's it. It like just had just the perfect number of frames. Like it was just about to contact the shoulder in the back there.
Yeah.
Just. Oh man. I feel like that's one of those you just like watch that same little 2-second clip over and over, and you're still laughing like the 100th time.
That's a good gif.
That was a really good one.
It's funny to me to see Gemini laser in the highlight, and the Gemini laser actually not being the reason the highlight is there. Because usually, if Gemini laser is in the clip, then that is the reason for the highlight.
That's right. For once, Nudu is like, ha ha ha, not me. So. Thanks for the submission, by the way, and we definitely need more submissions for all of our different segments. So if you have a highlight, whether it's a good or bad highlight, and you want to share it on the show, send it to our email. And all of our contact info is over here on the side, so encourage you to check that out if you're not around for it. We're getting very close to the surprise here, but before we do, it's time to see if the chat has any questions for Cypher or for the hosts in general. It's time for the boss rush. I'm trying to contain my excitement for the surprise. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
I was about to say, I don't know what this is.
Oh,
so.
well, somebody didn't read the episode guide.
I
guess
secret's out. You know what? No, I'm not going to read
You know, Spike, I know that you didn't get the memo, but I hope you're okay with Cypher joining us like full time, because that's, I mean, obviously that's the announcement. So,
sick.
yeah.
All right. Good.
All right, we have some questions here. All right, let's see what people are saying. Liam says, what's your advice for someone looking to get into speedrunning? That's kind of a popular question, I suppose.
My advice for someone getting into speedrunning is, I mean, everyone says this, but pick a game that you really like and that you could see yourself playing a lot and playing in ways that you might not have played in the past where it's not obviously fun. Oh my god, BJW.
I know what my next question is.
Wonder.
But to continue that question, yeah, pick a game that you can see yourself playing a lot, and also you want to like. I feel like you want to ease yourself into the various mindsets that you need to have when you're speedrunning. You have to kind of train yourself to look for certain things when you're playing in order to improve the techniques you'll be using when you're learning games. You want to, you know, oh my god. Ideally, you want to, ideally, you want to be able to, you know, not spend a really long time learning things. So, just, you know, having a critical eye toward the various processes of speedrunning. And I don't get discouraged if you don't see results right away.
I think that's
I feel like we
summary.
can't ignore this question that's in chat.
Yeah, I have a question here from everybody, specifically BJW, about 25 different times. Cypher, when is Shovel Knight?
Shovel Knight is dead. I played it already in my stream. I'm never playing it again.
How far did you make it? How far did you make it in Shovel Knight?
I beat 3 levels.
Okay, and your opinion of it? You just it tanked for you at that point?
It's a mediocre game.
Okay, all right.
That's just my opinion on it. I don't know.
There you go. That's the opinion.
I mean, I didn't get
Moving on the 45 people who submitted it.
I was going to say he is the enemy now of every single person that submitted a game to AGDQ, because you know, like, everyone's list's got that one on there. So,
I didn't get to the parts that have, like, apparently you get different movement options later in the game, and I didn't get to that part. But I don't know. It's like it was like decently put together. Like, it's a video game, but it's not a very interesting video game to me.
All right, there you go.
Yeah.
I saw another question in here, and then there was the whole.
Was there another question in there?
Yeah, there were a billion questions. Is there any game that shouldn't be speedrun, in your opinion? That's tricky.
No, I mean, like, there are games where there isn't really any percent category, and you shouldn't really be running those games seriously. But I feel like any game that could traditionally be treated as speedrunnable will have an audience, and if you like the game enough, then speedrunning is ultimately for your own enjoyment. So just do it if you want to do it.
Yeah, that's a good take-home point. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the larger community thinks of your game. Just play what you want to play. Play whatever makes you happy. It's the I don't know. It's like the Zen, like meditating under the waterfall opinion of speedrunning. Just like, this makes me happy. That's what I'm gonna do. Let's get 1 or 2 more questions here, and then we'll do our awesome surprise announcement. Let's see.
The anticipation.
I know. In the meantime, Spike, do you want to pull up a potential raid target? Is the Donkey Festival still going by any chance?
Oh yeah, it's still going.
So,
all right, I think we'll probably.
I think we've got.
Unless you've got a better one in mind, I think we'll probably raid them at the end of the show. Let's see. Trying to stall to see if we can get a question here.
Well, I see.
All right. Go ahead.
Pi, I already said this earlier in the show, but I would ideally like to do Super Mario RPG runs again after I've moved out to my own place. But beyond that, I don't really have a good idea. Right now, I just know I want to play Gimmick, and I have games that I would like to play in the marathon, in HDQ, I mean. But beyond that, I don't really have any plans further than that.
Cool. All right. On that note, I think we'll go ahead and do our super special announcement here. So before I push the button and actually like reveal what it is, I'm gonna do a little bit of setup. Okay, gotta have a little bit of setup here. So for the last several days, let me run the here. We're gonna count this as my speech too, because I don't want to do an actual speech on this episode. It's gonna be the speech.
All right.
Finding an excuse to use it. Okay. So for the last several days, myself and several others have been conversing in a secret chat, if you will. And our goal has been to bring something new to HDQ that hasn't happened before. And I guess going along with that, there were a lot of people telling me that, hey, I really enjoyed speedruns from A to Z last year, that marathon. So they were asking me just like, when are you going to do another marathon? And I said I would never do another marathon unless I had a purpose. And I'm really excited to announce that we have a purpose to do a marathon now. And that is that we have been talking with several Japanese runners, and they would like to attend Awesome Games Done Quick 2015, and we would like to help them attend. So we've actually been in the process of getting Japanese runners to submit games to HDQ. And so our goal coming up here very shortly is going to be to raise money to get them to attend and show what they can do live at HDQ. So here it is. The surprise announcement is the JRTA Marathon, September 26th to 28th. Going to be raising money to bring Japanese runners to HDQ, and game submissions are live right now. Right now, they're already up. So if you want to get games into the marathon and help out, head on over to that link and you can submit games. You can also go to twitch.tv/JRTA Marathon. That's going to be the marathon page, and info is there. You'll be able to submit games there. You can also check out all the games that have been submitted. It is going to be a weekend marathon, and it is coming up pretty soon already. It's obviously we need to have a lot of time to be able to make sure that money gets transferred and all of that, and we can guarantee that these guys will be able to attend. And just to give you an idea, I'll name drop a few here. I think you guys already saw Oxwis's games were confirmed through the first round, but we've also invited Ohan. Isn't that the most exciting thing? Oh my god, Ohan submitted. Okay.
I am so fucking excited. Like, this is the thing I'm most excited for at HDQ.
This is the best part. So Ohan, we asked him, we're like, what game do you want to play at HDQ? And Ohan goes, Mega Man 6. And everybody's just like, what? Really? Like, you've got this library of games, right? Like there's like 30 games on this list of PBs, and that's the one he wanted to play. So we had to convince him that he could submit more than one game, and he immediately responded with 5 games that he wants to run. So he's in the process of submitting those.
But Mega Man 6 will always be his first choice.
That's the one he wants. I don't know. Like, can you believe that? I don't know. BJW doesn't seem to be too fazed by that, but yeah. So 5 games from Ohan were submitted. We've also got Hanage submitting CV4 and intending to race Joe, I believe. And so at the moment we're looking at 3. We're kind of talking to some others just to see if they're interested, but no other, I guess, confirmations at this point as far as people who have submitted or are trying to submit games. But this is something that I'm really excited about. I know these guys in the call are really excited about it, and a lot of us are looking forward to making it happen. So we hope that you guys can help us do that by spreading the word about the marathon. If you want to play in the marathon, submitting games would be just wonderful. You'll have a little over a week to submit games before we can try to figure it out and make it all happen. So that is the big surprise. It's not that we're quitting this show. It's not that somebody guessed earlier that we were going to do like a Shaq Fu tournament or something. Like I hope this is okay. Like I hope you're not disappointed that it's not Shaq Fu.
I'm disappointed.
But maybe we'll have a Shaq Fu tournament. I don't know. We could probably organize that too. So I don't know. So there you go. That's the announcement. Looking forward to seeing what you guys submit for that, and hopefully you guys can help us spread the word. So what do you guys think? Any other thoughts on that? I know you guys are excited, so.
This has potential to be the greatest online marathon our community has put on. And we can get lost in all the online marathons that people have put on. And there have been a lot of marathons done for really great causes, but I just think the level of excitement you can build here for such a unique idea and such a great idea to make the GDQs even more international and to give runners opportunities who would never have the chance from across the world. And to let our audience know, like, how this is not something by a group of people, in the stateside. This is everybody all over the world loves doing this hobby. So, There's a lot of great things to this, and I expect some good results here.
I have two things to say. One, this is like the main thing I wanted for a long time, to see Japanese runners come to HDQ, because I feel like they have been a counterpart to the Western community for speedrunning, and there's been a lot of competition and collaboration, and generally just like beneficial interaction between Japanese speedrunners and Western speedrunners. And it's unfortunate that there has not been more Japanese involvement in the GDQs in the past. So I'm really, really excited to see Ohan and Oxus and Hanage and potentially someone else come and play in one, and actually showcase the side of speedrunning that maybe the casual audience doesn't really see, because they don't follow speedrunning as intensely as we do. And number two, FFT for finale at JRTA Marathon.
There you go.
Nice.
There you go. It's a lock. It's in. All right. Any thoughts, Ivan? Are you excited about it?
I'm super, super excited. I can't wait.
Nice. Yeah, I think we're all excited. So on that very exciting note and very positive note, we're going to wrap up the episode here, guys. I'm already excited to see what you guys are going to submit for games. See what are we going to have, like the Mario RPG run back? Are we going to have the booty hunt? We haven't had booty hunt in a marathon in a long time. We got
I forgot about booty hunt.
Everybody forgets about booty hunt, but we got to bring that back.
Game.
It's should be fun. All right. Well, anyway, our next show is next Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern, just as usual. So thanks everybody for watching. We're gonna raid Reflected SC hosting the Donkey Festival. What did we copy there? Spike's just sharing all kinds of links there.
Yeah, you guys know everything's going on there.
What? I don't even know what he linked. What did he link?
It's the,
Well,
it's
so
the
we do the
show.
episode guide.
The episode guide? You're gonna share?
On there.
You
Yeah,
should-
sure.
Sure. Find out, like, behind the scenes. You get to see what we were planning for today's episode.
Check that out. Yeah.
Oh man,
God,
I have to keep him in line. He's Spike's gonna. I'm gonna start like muting
Can
you.
we make that
Yeah.
the raid message? What Claude just posted?
Oh,
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I don't care. Whatever you want the raid message to be, that's good.
I'm down. Yeah,
All right. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching, and just remember that your run's not over until you hit the final split. We'll see you next week.
Peace out.